Morning guys and gals, Froggy here. What I'm going to do today is show you how I do rear brakes on a C5 Corvette Z06. I'm going to start by jacking it up, and I'm going to use one jack under the rear crossmember or rear subframe, and that'll pick up both sides. You need a 15mm socket to get the bolt, and you need an 18mm open end to hold the flats on the slide pin so the slide pin doesn't turn when you turn the bolt out. Now there's two rubber boots here that I want to show you. This one is on the slide pin. It's just a little one. I always check that to make sure that it's good, because it keeps the slide pin clean so the pin can move. It's a sliding caliper brake system. The other boot is on the piston, and I'm going to show you in a second. See, this one is burnt up. And the reason it's burnt up is because the rear brakes got hot during a competition. Now, if you just drive your car on the street, these boots will probably be okay. They won't get, the brake caliper won't get hot enough to burn them up. But if you track your car, then yeah, they're probably going to burn up. And most of us don't bother replacing them. I'm not going to replace this one because it's the first time I go out on a track, the brand new one will burn up too. They're just not a very high temperature boot. However, I am going to clean that piston really good. You can see it's out pretty far. The reason the piston is out is because these brakes are worn down pretty good. Let me show you the pads. Let me get a close-up. Okay, there you can see there's only about maybe less than an eighth on the inside and maybe an eighth of an inch on the outside. So these pads are pretty worn down. I'm going to put some better used pads on there, simply because the next few events I have are autocross events. If I was doing a track event, I'd put on some new pads and some higher temperature pads. But this is for autocross, and it's also for rear brakes, which don't do as much work as the front brakes. So I'm going to pick out the best used rear pads that I've got in my stack of pads. I'm going to clean off this piston. I'm going to get rid of the rest of this broken up rubber boot. And then I'm going to clean the whole caliper while I've got it out dangling loose, just to make it look red again. And I'll show you how it goes back together in a minute. Now, the other thing you want to do is check the thickness of your rear of your rotor. Make sure it's not below the specification. The specification will be written on the back side of the rotor, or yeah, usually sometimes it's on this surface here of the rotor, and sometimes it's on the back side. Okay, the caliper slides off once you have those two bolts undone. The pads come out of these slots here. I'll just show you one. Whoop, this way. That's where they slide in those little metal inserts. Now these are some better pads that I had. They're about half worn down, so I'm going to stick them in. The other ones were pretty much all worn down. And now I take the time to clean up. You see, I took the boot off. This was that damaged boot I told you it gets damaged by heat from braking. So I took that off, and I'm just cleaning the piston before I shove it back in. You have to shove that piston back into the cylinder with a C-clamp or a special tool for pushing the brake piston back in. I use a cleaner called Purple Power. That's it over there. And then that's pretty easy on the paint that's on the calipers. And then I'll use some brake cleaner. Be careful with the brake cleaner. It will actually soften the paint. It would probably, if you rubbed hard enough, it'd probably take the paint off the caliper. So now I've got this caliper pretty clean, as clean as I want to get it, and I'm going to push that piston back in, and then we're ready to put the new pads in. Clean these sliders up too. They clip into the bracket, the caliper bracket. You want the pads to be able to slide over them. We're going to put some grease on the pads too. This is how I use the C-clamp to push the piston back in. I've got a brake pad on the piston just to spread the pressure out, so you're not pushing on one corner of the piston. You're not cocking the piston that way. Make sure that you've got room in your master cylinder for the brake fluid to go back up there to the master cylinder. I'm not going to do a bleed on this one. I'll show you that on another video, but if you don't have enough room in the master cylinder for this little bit of fluid that's in the wheel cylinder, it'll overflow your master cylinder, so don't do that. If you want to, you can put some disc brake quiet. The disc brake quiet goes where the caliper, parts of the caliper that touch, well, the piston right here, you can see the circle where the piston touches the pad, and then the ears of the caliper would be up there where my thumb is and down there. So those are the spots where you put the brake quiet, disc brake quiet material. There's a picture of it like that. Now you're going to take some caliper lube. This is silicone, high performance. There's a lot of different brands of it. And you're going to put that where the caliper, where the pad will slide on the caliper bracket. I think you can probably see it there, right on the very end, where my little finger is pointing right there, and where my pointer finger is right there. Those are the two places where the pad is going to slide. So make sure they're greased. Don't get any on the pad material. Pull the caliper slide pins and inspect them, make sure they're in good shape, and then lube them and put them back in. Slide the caliper over the pads like this and fasten it with the two bolts that you took out. Use some blue Loctite, and hold on, I'll give you the spec. Okay, that's it. That's a pad change. Do the same thing on the other side. Now remember, when you get the car back on the ground, the first time you put your foot on the brake pedal, the pedal's going to go to the floor. Why? Because you got to push that piston back out to make the pads contact both sides of the rotor. So pump it up a couple times before you start driving down the road. Okay, if this helps you out, give me a thumbs up. If you want more from Froggy, subscribe to my channel. It is FREE free. See you later.